You have said that you would pull back the military forces. How would you decide which ones, or would they be all of them?
Well, how would I decide on which troops to come home? And basically, I want them all to come home, but you can't get them all home in the next week. So you do have to have priorities. I would think that the least controversial, you come first. The troops went in to Korea when I was in high school, and they're still there. We don't need troops in South Korea. I mean, they're 10 times, if not 50 times richer than North Korea, and that's a fourth world nation, and here we are subsidizing the South Koreans. So bring them home. Japan, why do we subsidize Japan? Why do we take care of them? Bring them home. Why do we provide this defense for Germany, and they then have more money to take care of their entitlements, and we have less money to take care of our sick people and our elderly? So bring them home. But I'd bring them home. I'd immediately back off from the Middle East. I would say, you know, we are not in a declared war. Why fight these wars? Bin Laden is dead, and the Al-Qaeda, even our CIA says, basically not in Afghanistan anymore. Our most recent report from the CIA says that there is no evidence that the Iranians are building a nuclear bomb. So we don't need all this. So I would bring, there's no place that I think should be exempt. I think we should just come home, and we should never allow the president, and I would never go to war without the permission of the Congress. The president has an obligation to defend this nation in emergency conditions if you're being attacked. It's been very clear throughout our history. But to engage in war, like in Libya now, and saying, our president now says, oh, I got permission from the United Nations. We shouldn't be doing any of that. We should be quitting that. Maybe we word it incorrectly, because it's always cut this, and cut this. Maybe if we said, well, we'd rather have the people spend the money, don't take it out of the economy, let the people spend this money. Because I do talk about, I don't put on the top of the list cutting health care. I put on the top of the list some of this foreign stuff. And I say, why shouldn't that money be spent back here by the people? And I think they can visualize this a little bit better. And literally that is what the case. We don't destroy wealth by stopping the spending by government. We produce more wealth because it gets into the hands of the people and better decisions are made.
I think what I would do is propose a transition time. I would give the young people, and they're overwhelmingly in support of my suggestion, that if you're young and you're getting out of college and starting in the workforce, opt out. They want to opt out of Obamacare. I'd let them opt out and not have to pay any of the tax. Okay. And I would let people over 50, I think we should work very hard to try to fulfill our promises, which means we have to cut elsewhere. We spend $1.2 trillion overseas. We can save a lot of money there. We don't have to put any. See, your inference is that, oh, you're against Medicare and Medicaid, you're going to throw them all out in the street. That's how you're going to balance the budget. But there is a transition that you can work on.
I'm trying not to create a character.
I practiced medicine before we had Medicaid in the early 1960s when I got out of medical school. I practiced at Santa Rosa Hospital in San Antonio, and the churches took care of them. We never turned anybody away from the hospital, and we've given up on this whole concept that we might take care of ourselves, assume responsibility for ourselves, our neighbors, our friends, our churches would do it. This whole idea, that's the reason the cost is so high. The cost is so high because the dump it on the government becomes a bureaucracy, it becomes special interest, it kowtows to the insurance companies and the drug companies. Then on top of that, you have the inflation. The inflation devalues the dollar. We have lack of competition. There's no competition in medicine. Everybody's protected by licensing. We should actually legalize alternative health care, allow people to practice what they want.
Paul, you say that the federal government should stay out of people's personal habits. You say marijuana, cocaine, even heroin should be legal if states want to permit it. You feel the same about prostitution and gay marriage. Question, sir, why should social conservatives in South Carolina vote for you for president?
Well, they will if they understand my defense of liberty is the defense of their right to practice their religion and say their prayers where they want and practice their life. But if you do not protect liberty across the board, it's a First Amendment type issue. We don't have a First Amendment so that we can talk about the weather. We have the First Amendment so we can say very controversial things. So for people to say that, yes, we have our religious beliefs protected, but people who want to follow something else or a controversial religion, you can't do this. If you have the inconsistency, then you're really not defending liberty. But there are strict rules on freedom of choice of this sort, because you can't hurt other people, you can't defame other people. But yes, you have a right to do things that are very controversial. If not, you're going to end up with government that's going to tell us what we can eat and drink and whatever. You know, it's amazing that we want freedom to pick the future, you know, our future in a spiritual way, but not when it comes to our personal habits.
But Senator, are you suggesting that heroin and prostitution are an exercise of liberty?
Well, you know, I probably never used those words. You put those words someplace. But, yes, in essence, if I leave it to the states, it's going to be up to the states. Up until this past century, you know, for over 100 years they were legal. What you're inferring is, you know what? If we legalize heroin tomorrow, everybody's going to use heroin. How many people here would use heroin if it was legal? I bet nobody would put their hand, oh, yeah, I need the government to take care of me. I don't want to use heroin, so I need these laws.
I never thought heroin would get applause here in South Carolina. Governor John.
Libertarianism is the enemy of all racism, because racism is a collectivist idea. It's that you put people in categories. You say, well, blacks belong here and whites here and women here. And we don't see people in forms or gays. You don't have rights because you're gays or women or minority. You have rights because you're an individual. So we see people as strictly as individuals, and we get these individuals in a natural way. So it's exactly opposite of all collectivism, and it's absolutely anti-racism because we don't see it in those terms.
Congressman Paul, this same line, you want to abolish the TSA. What would exist in its place?
Well, the airlines are responsible for carrying their cargo and their passengers. I mean, why should we assume that a bureaucracy can do better? And look at the monstrosity we have at the airports. These TSA agents are abusive there. Sometimes they're accused of all kinds of sexual activities on the way they maul people at the airports. So the airlines could do that.
Your best at LAX tonight.
I would think the airlines should treat passengers as well as a company that hauls money around, and they protect their money. They have private guards, and they could do it. Just remember, 9/11 came about because there was too much government. Government was more or less in charge. They told the pilots they couldn't have guns, and they were told never to resist. They set up the stage for all this. So no, private markets do a good job in protecting, much better than this bureaucracy called the TSA. Let me tell you.
Let me ask you